I just asked for God's help to do something that I really didn't have to ask him for. It was kind of by mistake. I'm like, come on, God, help me out here. And he came through, and I felt embarrassed. And I was like, oh, dude, I'm sorry. I bothered you with this request, but, thank you. I'm not even going to tell you what it was. It's so embarrassing. But anyway, I've been thinking a lot today about Christianity and other Christians and people I see on YouTube, and there's some good ones that mean well. I talk about hanging with Stan a bit. He's pretty great. He has a great community tab. He's always putting good stuff out there, and he really cares. He'll go into the Bible and stuff, and he reads the Bible and he'll quote text, and he's really into it. But to him, you can tell the guy's genuine. I don't know what it is. The spiritual shit test that you have inside, you just kind of know. But in the same way, and I don't want to drag Christians, but a lot of them have this thing like, if you don't do the way they do it, you're absolutely going to hell. Last night I was going through the Slayer catalog. I've been watching listening to a Slayer podcast that got me back and listening to their albums, just to go through the catalog and hear them. And at one point I'm listening to the God Hates Us All album, and I just kind of look up. I always look out, well, heavens above, and I'm like, you don't care about this shit, right? And like, I didn't even get like an answer of it. It was more like, I feel like God made a face, like, no, like that, like kind of annoyed, kind of like squinted eyes, kind of shaking head, like, what? No. If you, like, and a lot of Christians would tell you, you can't listen to this, you can't watch movies like that. If you think God's power isn't strong enough to overcome Slayer, okay, a rock band, then you probably should, you need to re-educate yourself. You need to do the work. You need to listen to me instead. The relationship you have with God is personal. You have a personal relationship with the Lord. You can talk to the Lord, our brother Jesus. That's between you and them. It's not between you and any man or any woman. Don't let anyone try to wedge themselves in between you and the Lord by trying to tell you you have to do this many of that prayer, or you have to know all this scripture, or you have to learn this, or if you listen to this kind of music. Don't let any mortal come between you and your relationship with God. And to have that relationship with God, you just have to address God. You just talk to him. He's right there. He wants you to talk to him. He wants to have a relationship with you, He wants to talk to all of his children. He wants them all to come home, eventually when our work here is done. And it just, I don't want to, I'm not trying to, drag Christians, but they can be a little bit sometimes. They get really into the religion aspect of it, and God has nothing to do with religion. Religion is a thing of man, designed by man to keep men between you and the Lord. And that's it. Develop your own relationship with him. I turned my back on him for many years. Many, many years. When I was a child, I was really into it. And I had a relationship back then. And, some things happened, as happens in people's lives. You get on a different road. Some people have complicated things happen to them, whatever. And the world in general, a big part of their job here in this realm is to get you away from God. And I came back to him, and he wasn't mad, because even though I turned my back on him, I basically renounced him. I lived in sin. He took me back because he knew I would. He knew that I would renounce him. He knew that I would go through a lot of my life ignoring him. This place is designed for that. He knows that. He understands. He knows you. He knows your heart. You don't have to go through anybody else. You don't have to listen to anyone. So many of these people like, the rapture's coming if you don't get good with God. How do I get good with God? Well, here's what you have to do. Fuck you. Sorry. It just gets me angry. It's like you're lost in your ego, trying to think that that you can control the relationship that other people have with God. You're just as bad as these kid-touching priests at that point. You're just as bad as the Pope. You're just as bad as any of them, trying to keep people from their divinity and their spirituality. You have no say here. You have no say here. If you want to encourage, you want to help, you want to give people, some hope and encouragement, that's fine. But when you're talking terms and conditions, that's the beast. The beast works in terms and conditions. He has contracts. God doesn't have contracts. So just shut the fuck up and let people have their own. And some people say, oh, he's swearing, you're going to hell. You don't know God. You don't know him. You can get to know him. He wants to get to know you. But stop acting like you do. Because you don't, obviously, if you get hung up on these things. He knows your heart. He knows what's in your heart. And that's beyond the way you speak. It's beyond the music you listen to. It's beyond how you dress. None of those extra things hurt your relationship with God, because he's stronger than all that. If you think Ozzy Osbourne music is stronger than God, then you don't really know what the fuck you're talking about. And that's the third fuck. And that will be the last one. I'm trying not to swear as much, but sometimes when I get really upset. And I just see a lot of this out there now. Especially in YouTube. It's like, you have to do this. People, God's coming. Get ready for it. No, you want just people to listen to you. It's an ego thing. You want people to go, oh, well, what do I have to do? I have to listen to fucking John Jacobs. He's going to tell me everything. No, you don't need John Jacobs. Okay, I just made up that name. That's not a real person. Go to God yourself. Talk to your brother Jesus. You don't need anyone's permission. You don't need anyone's help to do this. You open the dialogue yourself. A lot of people say that you have to be born again. I think being born again is when you come back to God. And a lot of people do have that moment. I had that moment where I was just like, where it just all kind of hit me like, oh man, I am so sorry. I am so sorry. I remember just like, just breaking down, just saying, I'm sorry. And he was fine, because he knew I would stray, He expected me to. He expects all of us to, because the world we live in makes it so that they're constantly trying to pull you away from God. But he always wants you to come back. He wants all his children to come back. And a lot of people say, like, oh, you think you talk to God? God's got other things to worry about. No. For all intents and purposes, God's consciousness is so vast, right, that for all intents and purposes, you have your own personal God. You also have your own personal devil who's trying to get you to do a bunch of shit all the time. And these guys are warring over you all day. You, whoever you are. It's not like, oh, they're busy in the Middle East. No. God's consciousness is vast. Every one of his children has their own little war going on, and he's with you all day long. He can be with you all day long. And he is with you all day long. It's not like, well, he's busy over here doing this, and why would he care about what I'm doing, if I decide to do. What is this one little decision compared to, the war in some country that's fake? No, you have your own God with you all the time, which is also happens to be God. And you also, unfortunately, you have your own devil with you all the time, trying to get you to do stuff. And because basically we're all the same thing. We're all part of the same consciousness, split up into all these. Our points of attention are split all over this realm. And these points of attention express themselves as individuals. I'm John Smith. I work at this store. I'm Lucy. Whatever. I do that. You know what I mean? But we're actually one thing. So we are the most important thing in this realm, and he's very focused on us because that's all he has to focus on is us. He can be all these other places at once because he has it. His consciousness allows that. I think I'm getting a little bit off the trail here. The point is, your relationship with God is between you and God and no one else. If you want to share it, that's fine. But when you start trying to tell people how their relationship with God should be, now you're out of line, and I hope people call you on it. Because I am if I'll see it, And I know there's that thing about cast the first stone. That's something people get wrong too all the time. They think, if you do it, you shouldn't tell other people. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with Christians criticizing other Christians. So at the risk of floating into that territory, criticizing my brothers and sisters, I say just concern yourself with your own relationship. Don't worry about saving everybody else. Okay? Because anyone you're trying to save is either going to be down or they're outside of your ability to help them. They simply can't come over. They simply can't, it's one of those robot situations that we talk about here a lot. But yeah, be happy. Be God's with you all the time. And he's pulling for you. He wants the best for you. Just leave people alone and let them do their own thing. God wants you to succeed. And he's counting on it. Don't blame the teacher. Blame the school.